Black caviar is now hard to find in Russia. During the Soviet period, it was available to the chosen few. At a certain point in time, Soviet scientists were given the ambitious task of inventing cheap artificial caviar, and they succeeded. Yefim Weinerman is a businessman in Moscow, but in the 1960s, he was among those who produced caviar for the poor. Yefim became the student of a famous Soviet scientist, Alexander Nesmeyanov. He tried to prove that it was possible to synthesize food from chemical elements.
Through this digger, the mass goes down into a cooled liquid, in this case water. From here it goes down again, takes on the required form, and it comes out here through a special venting system. And so you see the caviar.
Black caviar was chosen for the first experiment to prove that scientists could produce this delicacy practically out of thin air.
In the 1960s, the issue of producing food from chemical compounds became acute, and there was debate over what form it would take. Actually, we could synthesize other foods as well. But caviar was a delicacy and a real Russian product.
As a result, the Soviet chemists were successful. Caviar for the poor was synthesized from milk protein. The artificial delicacy immediately appeared on the counters in Soviet shops. However, the public started to speculate that artificial caviar was produced almost entirely from oil.
It wasn't our task to replace natural caviar with artificial caviar. It was a separate kind of food. You can't actually compare sturgeon caviar with aubergine paste, for example. Caviar is just a form of food. Taste wasn't the issue. We managed to make artificial caviar taste like real caviar with various flavorings. The issue is the consistency.
The form is the same, but the content is different. The taste of artificial caviar is different from the natural product. However, the discoveries made by Nesmeyanov are being used even today. The principle of producing caviar has remained almost the same. In this small workshop in the suburbs of Moscow, the scheme suggested by the Soviet chemist has been improved slightly. The protein mass plus flavoring and coloring compounds goes through a specially designed strainer into hot oil to acquire the ideal form. A few seconds and then a couple of kilos of artificial caviar are ready. To the side, there's the same equipment for the production of black caviar. The difference is just in the coloring. This small plant produces 200 kilos of so-called caviar for the poor every day. 1 can of this substitute for luxury costs only 30 rubles, which is slightly more than $1 US. And here is a production line in another part of Moscow. It looks like real caviar, and the real thing is canned here. You can't tell the difference, but the specialists know the difference is in the taste.
Pink salmon. It is a very smooth, slightly salty caviar.
This is the Caspian Sea. This small village covered with reeds isn't full of poachers. Even though these people also catch sturgeon with nets, they're allowed to. This fish serves science. Every year, the state sets a certain limit for the amount of legally caught fish, approximately 200 tons. This floating scientific base is the first stage in a network of sturgeon breeding.
You see, this fish was caught for scientific work. It's only been here a week, and after that we sent it to a special workshop.
A week passes and the sturgeon arrive. This bios complex is located 50 kilometers from Astrakhan. It's the only place where real caviar is produced without causing damage to the fish. It's made as follows. A special vaccination is given to the sturgeon, after which the fish are ready to release the caviar. The sturgeon are taken out of the water and the caviar is acquired through a special incision. The procedure takes a couple of minutes, and the fish are then returned to the pool. The caviar is filtered and packed into special hermetic bags. The procedure may seem quite cruel, but scientists assure us that after the caviar is extracted, the surgeon will live normally. This caviar won't be on the tables at a Moscow restaurant, however, but new fish will be bred.
We're doing control weighing now. We take the fish out of the water for a short time. Knowing its average weight, we can calculate its daily food ration. Now we count the fish. Sturgeons should not eat too much.
In 6 months' time, the fish will have grown several times over. Here are the small lakes where huge sturgeon live. However, they will only produce caviar in 12 years' time. Sturgeon breeding specialist Yekaterina doesn't mind the wait. Yekaterina is sure that without people's help, this rare fish will disappear in less than a decade, and memories of large sturgeons will become nothing more than a fairy tale.
I saw a fish. I cannot show its size with my arms, but it weighed 120 kilos.
This fish weighed 10 times more, 1,200 kilos. It was 2.5 meters long. This great sturgeon was caught near the north coast of the Caspian Sea at the end of the 1980s. This stuffed Caspian monster is now the main wonder in the local Natural History Museum.
This fish was caught in 1989. They took 120 kilos of caviar from it.
The border guards are on their way back to base. They notice illegal nets. Their routine work starts here. The men joke in a regretful way that it's all in vain. New nets will replace the old ones the next day. But at least this particular sturgeon won't be killed for the time being.
I think this sturgeon is about 5 years old. It's quite young. It's average size. There's no caviar for sure. Let's let it go from these nets. I hope this one will swim and live long. Go on, off you go.
There's a chance that the border guard has just released a future Caspian monster. However, this fish isn't likely to live to a sturgeon's adulthood. The poachers aren't willing to lay down their arms in this war against the border guards. Dmitry Kanievsky, a chef at a Moscow restaurant, knows several dozen old Russian recipes which use black caviar. Unfortunately, it's been impossible to make them for some time. This delicacy hasn't disappeared from the shops, it's produced in Iran. And the chef believes that it can't be compared to real Russian caviar.
I've tried the licensed official caviar of different factories and producers, which is freely available in the shops now, but I wasn't too excited about it. It doesn't match our standards. In principle, we can't serve such caviar to our guests.
Yekaterina does her last round of the reservoirs for today. She feeds and counts the fish. Dozens of sturgeon are in the water. One day they'll be released into the sea to revive the population of the Tsar's fish.
Squad, attention. Captain, the patrol is ready to protect the border.
The border guards are preparing for a routine raid. They go out to sea every day. However, they admit that winning the battle against illegal fishing is a long way off. Governor Alexander Zhilkin, who has given up black caviar, hopes that in several years' time, this delicacy won't be in short supply, and that caviar will be easily found in shops, on restaurant tables, and also on the menu for the Moscow chef Dmitry Kanievsky. However, the artist Andrei Lagvin would hardly ever order a sandwich with black caviar. He's back to his old paints and brushes.